Difficult. Women.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. I don't know.
We're podcasting.
We're podcasting. I'm Katie.
I'm Marie.
And this is Difficult Women, the podcast.
Welcome. It's like lubrication for your ears.
Gross.
Is that our new slogan? You like that?
Nope.
Should I make t-shirts?
Nope.
Difficult women. It's like
lubing up your vag. Nope, I don't want that on the shirt.
Okay, never mind. We're also in a musical comedy duo band, folk, pop, rock. I don't know who we are.
But we are awesome.
Yep.
And we are named Reformed Whores.
Mm-hmm. If you want to listen to our music, it's everywhere.
Like it's like
it's
in the
literally
grocery store. It's like, no,
oh
it's
man,
not. That'd be
I
nice,
wish
though. We'd
someday.
make so much money.
Girls poop too, like buying Depends and
Perfect
stuff. That'd be great.
Should be done.
It should be. But yes, you can listen to our music everywhere, Spotify, all that sort of stuff. But here we are podcasting.
Oh, hey, this is a good time to mention something, huh?
Oh, it certainly is.
That would be that we are pairing up with adamandeve.com, which is the best adult superstore toy store. I love toys. I love toys in all forms, to be honest with you. I love Jenga and all those things, but I especially love adult toys, and we like to buy our toys at adamandeve.com.
Mm-hmm. And free stuff is awesome. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree.
But free stuff to spice up your bedroom is even better.
That's right. And you can select almost any one item for 50% off, and then Adam and Eve loads on all this free stuff.
What? That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Enter code. It is crazy. It really is.
Insane.
You guys,
It's
seriously,
totally
you go to
insane.
adamandeve.com and you can select an item and it's 50% off.
That's like a
with
very
this.
high percentage off.
That's like, I've never gotten 50% off usually. Usually it's like 20% off or like a nice little 10. But this is 50% off when you enter offer code HORIO at checkout and get 10 tantalizing free gifts.
And you get a sexy item for him and a special gift for her, and then a third item you can both enjoy, maybe together.
Whoa.
Probably together.
I would hope so.
I hope so. I don't
or
even know
not.
what it is. It's like a surprise.
What's in your butt? I don't know. Let me find
Let's
out.
find out.
Oh, and 6 free spicy movies.
Okay, but those are only 9 things. We just counted 9 things out. But guess what else you get for
What's
free?
the 10th?
It's plus free shipping.
No.
Yes, it's true.
Don't tease me.
I know. Well, that's what this is all about. Get a little feather and tease you with this free shipping.
Oh my God. I can't. I really, again, what? My brain is just,
Can't
I
even
can't
handle it.
No, I can't even talk. I'm so excited.
I know.
So let's say this one more time.
Yes.
That's HORIO. WHOREO at adamandeve.com.
Go use that thing. Go use it. I'm telling you, you're never going to find a better discount than that.
That's true. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Well, are we just jumping right in?
I mean, unless you have something else to talk about.
No, I guess not.
I mean, well, we could just plug one other show. Wilmington, North Carolina, we're coming for you.
Yes. Hope you're ready.
October 11th and 12th. It's a Friday and a Saturday. We're going to do 2 shows a night, folks.
At Wilmington. You said that, right?
Yeah, Wilmington.
At the Dead Crow Comedy Club.
Yeah.
Which is one of our favorite places. We really enjoy going there, and we love the people that are there, and the town is really great. So
It's
I'm
so
really
awesome.
looking forward to it.
Yeah. So again, October 11th, 12th, Wilmington, North Carolina. Come see us, Reformed Whores.
Get your tickets today. Get them now.
Get your butts
Run, quick,
there.
Quick, run. Don't walk to your computer. Unless you're sitting right in front of it, and then don't run because you're going to hit your computer.
Well, that's good. We got that out of the way.
That's really good.
Now we can talk about what we've always, the reason why we were birthed.
All of
actually.
us were birthed, not just us, but
Yeah.
everyone.
Every
on
single
the planet, practically.
Yeah.
Not really the planet, but not like plants
Well, yeah, no.
or rocks.
Mammals. Let's stick with mammals.
Yes.
What are we getting at, Katie?
I don't know anymore. No.
Period.
Period.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say menstruation. Period.
Periods.
I don't know.
Ooh, or do you like calling it, I was looking at
Menses?
nicknames. Leak Week.
Yeah.
Girl Flu. The Visitor. Moontime.
Aunt Flo.
Crimson Tide. Checking into the Red Roof Inn.
In Spanish, you call it Andrés because the rhyme is Andrés viene cada mes, which means Andre comes every month, but it doesn't rhyme. In
Wow.
So I used to call it Andres on my calendar.
Huh. Mm-hmm. In India, they call it chum. Mm-hmm.
It's not my favorite word.
Shark Week, riding the cotton pony, or the Republican Party.
Oh, right, because they're red. I get it.
Yes, that's right, folks. We're talking periods.
Now, right now, men are running for the hills. I can hear them. I can hear them. Like,
No. Listen.
But come on back. Come on
back. No, and this is, I have to just say to our men listeners, like any man out there that is actively listening to a podcast called Difficult Women Podcast, like, thank you. First off, we need you.
Yes.
And please don't go anywhere. You're gonna
see why this is an important topic.
It's very important for everyone.
Because guess what? Every woman in the world, unless there's like barring some technical difficulty, has their period.
Yes.
And you came out of a period.
Yes. And it's fucking magic.
It is magic.
It is magic. The fact that I was reading, it's for 40 decades, women bleed without injury and we don't die. Like, and no other thing can do that.
Right.
I mean, it's a miracle.
Yeah, it is a miracle.
It's a miracle.
So what was your first experiences with like learning about periods and maybe your, whatever you want to share about your experiences?
Well, the sex ed one, I talked about my experiments on the pads. And that was the first time I actually held a pad and put the blue dye on, which I read that the blue dye, like showing that example of how much a pad was invented in the 80s. And it wasn't until then that they started doing that. Anyway, I remember that very distinctly as a child, that periods were all about blue dye on pads. But my first time when I had my period, I remember so clearly. I was in my parents' bathroom. I was not feeling well at all for some reason. When I went to the bathroom, I pulled down my pants and my panties were filled with blood. And I immediately, instead of thinking it was my period, I immediately thought I was dying. And I started crying. And I was crying so much because I was dying. I pulled off my glasses and put them on the floor. And then I pulled up my panties to go tell my mom I was dying, and I stepped on my glasses.
Again.
And then I realized, oh no, wait, that's my period.
Right.
So then I rushed to my mother and I told her, Mom, I think I started my period.
Do you remember how old you were?
And I broke my glasses.
Yeah. She's like, congratulations.
Yeah. I was I was 13.
Yeah.
13 years old.
Yeah. I think I finally did the math, and I think I was 14. And I remember being like, I don't think I was the last one in my class, but I was like later than some kids, because some kids had gotten it like around 12, 13 or whatever. And I was like very, very relieved the day I got it.
Oh, really?
I remember, which is not people's standard story, I know, but it was because I was so worried I was not going to get it. And for me, I knew that it meant like, would that mean I couldn't have kids? Would that mean like, am I less of a woman? Like I was very, very, very worried that I was not going to get it. And then I got it and it was like, fine.
Wait, what age were you? I mean,
I was like 14.
Do you remember what grade though?
I think I was in 8th grade.
8th grade.
So like a lot of kids had been starting in like 6th grade and then 7th grade and stuff. And I remember the other thing I remember though about, I was also like very anxious about what it was going to feel like. I really didn't understand, like, because they say like, well, you don't really feel it. I'm like, how can you not feel it? Like, I don't understand like what this is going to be like. So then to like finally start experiencing it, I was like, okay, that kind of assuaged some of my fears. Because when I was at camp one year, I think when I was about 12, this girl had started her period really early. And I think she even had some like, I don't know if it was like an endometriosis or something, but I remember her waking up. We all woke up in the morning and camp, and her entire bed was like full of blood. I mean, it was like a murder had happened in the camp. And I was like, oh, is that what your period's going to be? Like that terrified me so much. And she was like, it's fine, I'm fine. And I was like, oh my God, like, but are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm just having my period. And I was like, oh, periods are terrifying. But then I think that she had some sort of special issue going on. But that's sort of like what my whole build up around period stuff was. And we learned about it in school and that kind of thing, but you just don't know what it is until you get it.
Right. But the shame or like the embarrassment, that's what I remember. So I guess I was in 7th grade, so I might have been 12 12 or 13. I don't know. But I remember the first day I bled through my pants.
I mean, that is shameful.
It was
that felt shameful.
And the teacher wouldn't let me go to the bathroom.
That's so shitty.
So
was
it
a male teacher or a lady
teacher? It was
teacher?
a lady teacher. But I was so embarrassed. I just was too
say,
embarrassed
"I'm
to
having
say
my
I'm having my period because also I was the first of my friends. I even beat my older sister.
Oh, so you,
So I was like
early.
Yeah. But she wouldn't let me go. And I remember a friend of mine said, just take your, it was winter. So I had like my huge winter jacket. And she said, just tie that around your waist. So I tied that around, which looked crazy.
Right.
And then I went outside in like a t-shirt and this thing. And I rode the bus home just like, you know. But the shame and, oh God, it was so embarrassing.
Unfortunate too, because it's like, I feel like then young women are not fully prepared for like, what do you do in that case? Or like, maybe that's a thing where like you have an extra pair of pants in your locker for like, you know what I mean? Like your mother, I'm not blaming your mother at all.
It's
I
my
think
mother's
just
fault.
No, it's your mother's fault that you had your period. But I just mean that like, I wonder what kinds of things we could do to like, I mean, part of it is just talking about it more. And
well, also, I mean, I feel like my education on pads and tampons was very limited. And I mean, I think that I thought, oh, a tampon, you just put it in there and like, you know, it does the thing. But that's what happened. I remember that day of coming home. My mom was like, you have to change your tampon. And then we talked about toxic shock syndrome and how it's so important to change your tampon. And
I think maybe because I had mine later, I feel like I knew a lot about this because my friends were talking about it with each other a little bit more. So like I think it is harder when you start earlier where you don't have as many of your compatriots to like talk to about it because they don't know, they haven't had it yet. I remember the first time I used a tampon. That was like the scariest day of my life practically because I was a virgin. I had never put anything in there at all. And so I remember my mom like coaching me from outside the door, but I was like, go away, Mom. But she's like, no, just bend your knees and like, you know, just like trying to be helpful. And she was helpful. I mean, I did not know how to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember like looking at the box and like the instructions in the box and not understanding at all. It's like this image is not.
They say to like put your leg up on like like the side of a tub or something.
Yeah. And also like, I think the drawing was like so 2-dimensional that it was just like a half it just was like you could see the inside of their vagina. So you're seeing that. But I'm like, but where's your other leg? Like I just could not understand it at all. And I remember like getting it in like halfway and then panicking and then trying to pull it out. Ow. And oh my God, that does not work. And then I was like, Mom. Like, and she was like, okay, push it in. I'm like, oh God. It was awful. That was traumatizing.
I remember in 8th grade, I went to the mall with Jill Johnson and some other girls and I was on my period. And this was when I guess maybe I had like a tiny little fanny pack and that was my purse and my tampon didn't fit in it. So I just had it in my pocket. And then as soon as I bought a shirt from the Gap, I thought I was like, oh, this is great. I'll just put the tampon in my Gap bag and walk around the mall that way. Then we ran into the group of boys. And the boys, there was another girl with the boys. And the girl took my bag and like pulled out, kind of dumped it out to see the shirt that she was a bully. She wasn't very nice. I can't remember her name. Tiffany, maybe. I don't know.
We'll call her Tiffany.
But my tampon fell on the floor in front of like 12 8th graders. Yeah, there was like all these boys and everyone was like, oh God, what? Was that in the Gap bag? Like, and I had to play it off that, oh my God, I guess the employee at the Gap put a tampon in my bag. Or maybe
so angry though, because like that is a preventable thing where it's like, what we need to be doing is, and I thought about this a lot where I was looking this stuff up, is that we need to be teaching our boys about periods too, because it's going to be a part of their lives too, even if they're not having a period. Like they're going to have women in their lives. They're going to have girls around. Like we have to teach them to not shame people for a very natural and normal thing.
But I mean, I remember that experience it lasted with me through high school, through college, and just feeling, even, you know, when I first started having sex, if I was on my period, I would just say, like, I'm on my period.
Right.
No, like that, it was a shameful thing to I'm on my period. I can't have sex.
Right.
Because none of my friends were having period sex either. And then it wasn't until I got older that it was just like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I was so lucky with the period sex thing because the second time I ever had sex, I was on my period. And I think I said something. I was like, oh, can we do this if I'm on my period? And the guy was so cool. And he was like, yes, of course. Like, I want you. Sometimes it's even better. And I was like, oh, great.
Oh,
so
wow.
he like took that stigma off right away. And then it wasn't until later where like there was other guys who were like, ew. And I'm like, wait, what's your fucking problem? Like,
right.
I know it's not a big deal.
My current guy, though, was like, I was like, oh, I'm on my period. And he was like, great, let's make a Tarantino film.
Yeah, gross. But that's amazing.
Yeah.
Also, what annoys me about that is I'm like, it's not your blood. There's blood on my dick. I'm like, it's not your fucking blood. It's not your, nobody chopped your dick off. Like, get over it. Get over it.
Well, I was asking my guy, just like, so what is it? I mean, he was like, he's concerned that he's hurt me some way or something if he finds blood or something, which I understand that. But I'm like, no, I'm not in pain. It's just my period.
Well, and I'll tell you if I'm in pain.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing. We have to be more empowered to speak up when we're like, whatever. So wait, let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start.
Yes.
Because I was,
How long have women been having periods?
Like 10 months. I don't know. No, a very long time. Very long time.
Since the beginning.
And I thought this was interesting because I was like looking up, okay, so what did people use to deal with their periods back in the day? And this sentence really irked me. It was that in ancient times, like Egypt and Rome and all that, there was very little documentation about women's periods in ancient history, probably due to the fact that most of the scribes were men who choose not to record menstruation.
What? They didn't carve it into a rock?
They didn't. They carved, there's penis size into the rock, but they didn't carve, any kind of period stuff. So it's hard to know 100%, but there's some ideas that people use like papyrus, like, but they don't know for sure, but they had ideas like that. So.
Wet paper they put up their pussies?
Yeah. So which kind of, I think they like chomped it up. Is that what you call it?
They like tobacco? I
don't know how they did. They masticated it somehow, but maybe not in their mouth. And then they shoved it up the pussies.
Well, in ancient Egypt, it was literally considered sorcery. And menstrual blood was incorporated into spell casting and medical treatments. And before you ask, well, yes, they did drink it because anything deeply mysterious and kind of gross must naturally be magical. And so they had to put it in their bodies.
I mean, I guess they survived.
Yeah. Yum.
We put all sorts of weird things in our mouths. I also read that there was all these myths that were like that menstruating women could stop hailstorms and lightning.
Yeah.
It could kill crops. It was believed it could kill bees.
Bees?
Yep. Dim mirrors, which I don't know what that means. And rust weapons. How do you dim a mirror?
The light is just on a dimmer and they're like, it's my period.
Cloudy. I mean, yeah, if you put blood on a mirror, that will dim the mirror. I don't really know. And then moving forward through time, in the medieval times.
Oh yeah. Well, here, wait, real quick. The Greeks.
Am I missing one?
Well, the Greeks, they would take menstrual blood and mix it with wine and put it over the fields in as magic, and it was meant to increase the fertility of the soil.
That might be possible though, because there's a lot of minerals in our blood.
Yeah, it's just like manure.
Well, I don't know. It's definitely not like manure. You are,
but I do think
the myths
comparing periods to
poop. No, it's not poop.
No. But yes, so let's go.
Medieval times they used rags. But there was a ton of religious shame around periods because goddamn, I don't know what that's about. But in all these Bibles and stuff, because they get, spoiler alert, they get rewritten by white, random dudes that want to control people. So there was just a lot of like period shaming and like in almost every religion
of Leviticus.
What do they
it
say?
Is illegal or a sin to have sex with a woman on her period. It's in the Bible.
You know what? I'm going to hell. It's fine. But so these poor ladies, they would go to insane lengths to hide their cycles, and they would carry little pouches of sweet-smelling herbs so that they wouldn't try to neutralize the smells and stuff that were coming out. They believed that burning a toad and wearing the ashes in a pouch around your waist would ease cramps.
Oh,
I can't imagine burning a toad. Yikes.
To help if I was told that would help cramps, I'd be like, sure, I'm
like,
fucking
give me
do
all the
anything.
goddamn frogs I can find. But they also did a lot of free bleeding then too, because they just didn't have sanitary pads and stuff. So, but I guess there was then more sanitary issues with that. So by the Victorian era, there was they developed this product that was like the first menstrual product, and it was called the Hoosier Sanitary Belt. And this to me is horrifying. It was in use, and like one of the main things that people used from 1890 to 1970. And I know my mom told me all about these belts.
God.
I've never seen one, but she talked about how like there's like a metal clip. They like never really made it better. It was like the same thing. So it's like a little belt, and it has these like metal
It's like
clips.
a thong almost, or like a
And you have a clip in the front and a clip in the back, and then you clip this like pad onto it, and I guess you just rewash the pad. But my mom would talk about how like when it was like very uncomfortable. And also, like, that metal part would just get really cold, or it would pinch you, or, like, it was just really, really, really uncomfortable. And that was the best they could do for 100 years? I mean, come on, guys.
Dear.
Yeah.
Well, in the 30s, they discovered that the bandages that they were using for the soldier in France, actually in World War I, the nurses discovered that the bandages that they were using soaked up the blood more. So then they started using that type of bandage for...
And I think they still
pads.
use some of that technology in pads too. And in the 1920s, they finally developed the tampons.
Tampons.
So that like people were sort of using them. I'm sure there was lots of. I didn't really look this up. Maybe you did, but I'm sure there's so much stigma around tampons for people because they're like, it's like sex, and are you a virgin if you're using a tampon? Remember that was like a whole thing.
Well, the first menstrual cup was invented in the 30s, and they couldn't get it off the ground because it was made from, I believe it was latex or silicone. It was rubber, but then during the war,
They needed it for the war.
Yeah, and so they couldn't.
The timing was bad.
Yeah, and then it was an actress that was trying to like get this thing going, and then she tried to bring it back, and then it failed again. But it's like that. I mean,
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
Well,
back then.
Yeah. So I mean. I don't even know like where to begin with some of this stuff. So like those are sort of maybe that's a good place to start. Is that like we've had these very limited options for a very long time. I mean, that's a lot of time that things could be innovated, right? And it's only really been in the last like 10 years or so that these alternative products are coming onto the market. Some of which, one is a sea sponge. Did you hear about that one?
A sea sponge?
You can get a sea sponge, and apparently you can use it for, it's biodegradable. And you can use it for up to between 3 and 6 uses, 3 and 6 cycles.
Oh.
Yeah. I had not known about the sea sponge. There's the Thinx panties that are like...
Yes. I'm a huge advocate for
I'm a big fan of those. I love
that.
those. There was also... I never heard of this. Interlabial pads.
I'm sure you would.
It's like a pad, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't have to insert anything into your body. So some people really don't like using anything that is inserted into their body, and I totally understand that. And especially for young women, like people first starting to have their periods, like that can be really scary and maybe not something they're comfortable with. So they made these like pads that I guess just like you put them in between your pussy lips, and it just like sits in your labia. So it's not attached to your panties. It's like on your body, but it doesn't. It just like you just like wedge it in there, just like wedge it in there. That's from my understanding. Somebody please send us an email at difficultwomenpodcast@gmail.com if I'm doing that wrong, if that's not accurate. And then also menstrual discs, which I've used too, which is basically like a cup, but it just sits a little bit lower. It doesn't go all the way up inside you. And then my favorite, the cup, the Diva cup.
The Diva cup. Katie is a big...
Can we talk about this?
Yes, I know you want to.
I love proselytizing about the Diva cup. So one of the big deals with like tampons and stuff is that they've historically been made with like bleached cotton. And it's not great to shove bleach in your vagina. Newsflash.
What? Whoa.
Can you stop pouring
bleach isn't good up in there?
In addition, it's not particularly good for the balance of your vagina to have an absorbent thing in there because it really disrupts
what your body is supposed to be doing. Your body is just supposed to,
have it like flush out of your system. And instead you're like kind of holding it in there, but not holding it in there in a way that it's like sucking the like.
Well, especially the super tampons
Right.
is when the toxic shock syndrome really came to be, because people were told that they could leave it in there longer, and then that's what it kills.
When
it
it's
kills women.
yeah, and it's also like it sucks the moisture out of your
Right.
body, like out of that part of your body, and that's just not normal. That's not for the benefit of the woman. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So what's so great about the cup is that you put it in. There's a little bit of like a learning curve and like figuring out how to get it in and out. Granted, it can be a little bit challenging when you first start, but then you get figured out. It's all cool. Then it collects the blood instead of like absorbing it. And the thing that people get so freaked out about is that then you have to pull the cup out and then it's full of your menstrual blood. And then you just dump it out in the toilet and then you have to wash it and then you can put it back in. And it has been a little bit challenging sometimes when you're in a public restroom where like the sink isn't hidden, like you have to go out to use the sink, because people are not used to this yet. It has not been like a common thing. So you want to be like more, kind of covering it up and hiding it a little bit and stuff. But like, I think that's insane. Mm-hmm. Why are we hiding?
Right.
Everybody in that there. Woman's room has like had a period, most likely. Not everybody, but most people that are using that bathroom know what a period is. And I'm not saying take your blood and spray it all over the bathroom. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that like this is a normal thing, and we need to get used to like our bodies are producing this every month, and we are told over and over again to like hide it and hide it and hide it and hide it, and don't get comfortable with it, and it's gross, and you shouldn't be like touching it. You shouldn't be like learning from it. I've learned so much more about how periods work, about my personal cycle, by being able to see what is coming out of my body. Mm-hmm. It's like, why do you not want to know like what's happening to you, and what's wrong with knowing that?
Right.
And I think that like the queasiness comes from the not being exposed to it at all, and like not being encouraged to be exposed.
Yeah, because you know my thoughts on the Diva Cup.
Because you think it's gross.
Well, I don't want to see your period blood.
We don't have to see my period blood. I mean,
but if we're in the bathroom together,
sure. But I mean, so maybe there should be like a station in the bathroom where it's like,
or sinks like in every bath.
Yeah. Or like one sink that has like a little bit more of a protected thing so that you can go and wash your thing there. Like there's ways we can work around that. Because I also am not like, some women are gross and they pee on the seat and stuff like that. Like that's not acceptable.
Get blood all over the seat.
And get blood all over the seat. Like, and you can do that with the tampon.
Right.
So like, it's not like you have to be considerate to your fellow people that you're around. But one of the huge side effects that I've gotten from using that cup is that I hardly ever have cramps anymore. And my cramps are always like less. And every so often I'll have a period with cramps, but like it's so rare now. And there's been studies that say that like using tampons increases your cramps. Mm-hmm. So, and again,
once you had said that,
it's okay.
Right. Well, my cramps are, and I think most women, it's at the beginning of their periods. And so I've been using Thinks more after our conversation a long time ago about how your cramps have kind of gone away. And if I don't use a tampon in the first couple of days and just wear my Thinks, my cramps are non-existent.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But that's just
But if I use a tampon, I like can barely walk. My cramps are so bad.
Now, how terrifying is that like that's what we're told we should be shoving into our bodies all the time, and nobody's questioned it, and nobody like cares that a woman's like suffering more because of it, because it's convenient, and it's like, then men don't have to see it, and it's not, so your blood isn't out in the open, like God forbid this thing that happens to you is like out in the open a tiny bit, so that somebody has to be exposed to it. Because it's like, why are we building this? Why has it been so built up to be so ashamed of the blood that comes out of your body? Mm-hmm. And that it's taxed as a luxury item. Right, which is a whole other crazy thing. So that's like a really interesting thing too, because like, so there's the levels of shame around periods. We're experiencing it in the West here, right? To a lesser degree, but like it is a millionfold worse in some other countries, like in India. Was it in India or maybe I want to say it was either India or Iran? There was some study that was like 50% of girls in their periods think that it's a disease, so they don't even know that it's normal. So like if you're carrying that around and you're not allowed to talk about it, then like you're going to think you're broken like your whole life and there's something wrong with you. And like, why do we want that for people? Well, I know that you had seen the period sentence
what is it?
That movie, it won like I think it won the Academy Award for short film.
Or period, end of sentence. It's a short documentary. It's on Netflix right now. I highly recommend people seeing it. But these women, these young girls, they're so embarrassed of the fact of their period. They don't talk about it. It's very, taboo. And then they ask the men, what do you know about menstruation? And all the men say it's an illness. It means the girls are sick. So a nonprofit in California helped fundraise and is now giving these small villages in India this machine that can make pads. And so therefore these women can have these sanitary products to use, but then also be able to sell and make money and feel empowered and, support themselves. And also, I mean, because these women they've just been using like torn rags or just they drop out of school,
right?
Because they're told that they have an illness,
right?
And so,
or sometimes, and this happens in the United States too, where people miss school. Women miss school because of their periods.
Or work.
Yeah. But another thing about that is that like in some of these countries too, aside from it just being like an illness, there's like these senses that like there's something unbalanced in a woman when she's like on her period. So I read that in Japan, up until recently, you could not be a sushi chef if you were a woman.
That is crazy,
because they said that you have to have
taste
even taste, and I'm not even so sure that it does. I don't know about sushi. I'm not even so sure that it affects your taste buds at all. And like, why wouldn't other hormones affect a man's taste bud? I mean, like, I think that's a terrible.
After reading that, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Have I ever had a female sushi chef?
Yeah,
ever? No.
I did see that there's some places that are trying to combat that,
especially in New York City,
certainly,
which is cool.
But in Japan specifically, like they've been trying to open all female-run sushi places to kind of put a kibosh on that whole nonsense.
Wow,
I mean, it's crazy. And so there's all these like things that make it's a big deal. This period shaming thing is a big deal because like there's so many ways in which it holds women back and holds young girls back. And even in like the United States, it's not a luxury item. Okay.
Right. No.
And the cost
it's a necessary.
of these, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the cost of these products is sometimes cost prohibitive for some families, especially as like the poverty rates are rising in the United States and all that. So those girls, especially they were saying like, take a girl who maybe has a single parent and the single parent's her father and she can't have good conversations with him about her period. And maybe they don't have a lot of money. So he's not understanding the need for them to be delegating money, or they can't afford these pads and stuff. So she misses 4 days of school every month. She's behind. That there's like these real repercussions to like not to taxing this stuff and making it more expensive, which is another reason why I'm a big fan of the Diva Cup, because that's another product that they've been bringing to some of these other countries where they can't afford the products, because you can use it it's reusable. So you can use it over and over and over again for quite a while. And then that means that they're not spending money on those products, and then they can go to school and they can be, feeling like they are being clean and taking care of themselves and not having to like be in a hole in a dark room, alone, shamed, and then not learning.
Yeah, I got to give the Diva Cup another go, because when I did try it was quite painful putting it in. So I need to figure out.
There's 2 sizes too, so that's something.
So I got a tight little.
tight little.
But in researching menstrual cups, I did find this new thing called the Ziggy Cup. And it's flat.
Yeah,
have you tried that one?
There is one that's like, it's more like a cap. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I have tried one that's like, it's more of a disposable cup. And you can buy it, because I was like in a pinch one day and I didn't have my cup. That's one of the things that can be hard. It's good to carry it with you. But I didn't have it. So I got, I saw this other product, and it's like, it sits a little lower and you can have sex on it.
Right. Yeah. That's the one thing that it says that it
So maybe that's the other thing is you can try different ones. Like maybe the Diva Cup's not a good fit, or maybe you don't like how it fits in there. Or like, I think that just having these alternate methods,
just the amount of money that you save with a cup,
exactly. But that's
tampons or pads,
and
or
that's
something.
another thing too with like homeless women. Like one of the biggest issues with homeless women is that they don't have access to sanitary products. So even like, and people don't think to donate them, but that's why something like the cup is great, because like you can donate this thing that then they can have with them when they're living their lives and not have to keep paying for, because you can donate a box of tampons, but then they're going to run out of tampons at some point. And they were saying that like, it's so hard. Women, like homeless women that get arrested for stealing a box of tampons. It's like, what's worse, like the shame of like getting arrested or the shame of just like bleeding everywhere, like, once a month and not being able to stay clean, so that's a real issue that homeless ladies have to think about, which we don't think about, Well,
let's get into free bleeding.
Yes.
So I know that you are in, I don't know what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm not like necessarily like pro free bleeding.
Katie's bleeding right now.
I am just
right
bleeding all over
chair.
this couch. It's cool. I'm definitely not like, I don't think it's like the be all end all. Because I think that it's also not, we had a conversation about this too. It's like, how do you actually free bleed? Like, how do you make that work in a society where you can't like bleed through your pants and then sit on the public bus?
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe if you have like,
and for the gentleman
pillow that you
listening,
bring.
free bleeding is just not using anything. You're just bleeding freely as your body is wanting to do, with nothing hindering it. But yes, so the runner in 2015,
right.
that was the first
Kiran
time.
Gandhi.
Yes, that was the first time that really I realized that it was more of a political activism. Like she was making a stance about it, and it's a big movement that's happening right now.
What I loved about what she said about it, though, too, and this is where I think this is the crux of this conversation that we need to be like, this is the pinpoint to me. She said, so she was having her period, like it was
at the London Marathon.
At the London Marathon,
2015,
and she was like, "God damn, it's kind of an annoying thing to get it during a big event like that, right?" And she's like, not sure what to do. So she was like, do I want to wear a pad? Like, I'm trying to like have a good time, like beat my time or run fast and be comfortable. Like, do I want a big pad like in between my legs as I'm running? That's also a chafing issue. Do I want a tampon inside my body? Like, how will I be able to change it? This is like a 4-hour event. And if it's the beginning of a period, some people have to change their tampons frequently. It was just all these issues. And she was like, she decided, and she says, so in a radical act to prioritize my own comfort, I decided to bleed freely. She prioritized her comfort. That has not been allowed in this conversation about periods at all. It's never about our comfort. It's about the comfort of the people, like the men around that don't want to see it. We have to hide it from them. We have to
make everybody else comfortable,
right?
Except
we have
ourselves.
to like wear a crazy belt that has like metal buckles on it for 100 years
to make the men,
to make other people comfortable,
right?
So that was what that I loved the way she said that, because
but she also said that it's for the people that can't afford tampons or pads and
to
things.
Just bring awareness to it. And I think that like as we learned in the Middle Ages, in the medieval times, it's not always the most sanitary option to like be walking around doing that, I think, and like there's like a way to do it. I don't know. I mean, but I
wonder how many people came up to her and they were just like, "Oh, excuse me, you're."
I mean,
probably
a lot of lovely women.
A lot of lovely. Oh goodness,
my dear.
Yeah.
I will say, doing it free bleeding like in a race like that is probably a great time to do it, because like you have a beginning and an end. You're not sitting anywhere. You're not like, nobody has to like. You don't have to interact with someone. There's it's not like you're sitting around in those clothes like forever. Like you when you exercise, you change your clothes usually relatively quickly afterwards or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that's just a different. So I thought like any time to free bleed, marathon's probably not a bad time.
Well, I thought to bring it to pop culture, just a hot second. I didn't know this woman at all, but in looking at pop culture with free bleeding and whatever, Madison Beer.
No, tell me.
She's a model. I guess she was like a while ago was Justin Bieber's muse at some point. I don't know. I don't know who these people are, but I mean I know who Bieber is, but I wasn't familiar with Madison Beer. But she was on the beach with her boyfriend in Miami in a white bathing suit and in a beautiful bikini, and she accidentally started her period. But instead of rushing and changing, she was just like, fuck it. And then her boyfriend too was so in on it because the paparazzi were there and they were taking pictures. There was one point he was like holding her up so they could get a better picture of like the little bit of the blood on her bathing suit. And like,
that's a weird thing.
I mean, it was kind of weird, but the fact that she didn't rush away to go change into something else, but made it actually more of a statement.
Yeah.
And then of course the internet trolls were like all after her and saying that she was purposely doing this, purposely wearing a white bikini and all this sort of stuff.
And even
like,
she is fine. It brings awareness to it. Like,
but her response is just like, I'm human.
Right.
This happens.
Right.
Get over it.
Right.
Like, I don't care what you think. My boyfriend obviously is hot and like loves me.
Right.
And, you know, he has no problem with it. And that's who matters. So go fuck yourselves.
Well, and they were talking about how like, how inherent the misogyny is in this whole like narrative where it's like it's gross. The concept of it being gross is so misogynistic, and because it's also like what else is gross? It's like people think it's gross that like breast milk comes out of your body.
Tits, yeah.
But men also think it's gross when women sweat. You know what I mean? And it's like, you're not allowed to be a human. You're not allowed to just these things that are so natural are like stigmatized in this like crazy way. And this one thing I was reading, the woman was saying like the part of the problem with that too is that like when you put a lot of shame on these things, then the women don't explore themselves much, and then they don't know how their bodies work. Just like no idea, like because they're not encouraged to like learn more about it.
I love period sex. It's actually better.
Yeah.
Had I not done period sex, because if I had hurt a boy's feelings or something by bleeding on his dick, then I would have never known that I can come harder that way.
Right. But also that like if your preference is not period sex, that's totally fine.
That's
it's
fine.
Totally
but
fine.
let's talk about it rather than you being like
options.
Right.
Let's let those things be options.
Yeah, let's get the Ziggy cup.
Let's get that Ziggy cup.
Ziggy cup.
Just go buy that.
Ziggy cup. Hey, maybe they could be a sponsor.
Oh my God.
Of Difficult Women podcast.
Please.
Okay.
Or the Diva Cup or any of those.
Or any
guys.
of those. I'll reach out.
Oh my
Let's
God,
see.
let's do it. Maybe they'll battle for our advertising time.
Ooh,
yes.
battle
Dream
it out.
Come true.
Dream come true.
The other thing too is it's like one of the. It's not just then about conversations. I think the period sex is a great example. That like these are not just conversations that we need to have with our daughters. These are conversations we need to have with our sons, so that they can understand like it's normal. It's fine. And I think that like these older men that like have these hang-ups about period sex and stuff, it's like they never got a chance to like be comfortable around periods, period. That was not on purpose.
Well, that brings me, did you ever talk about periods with your dad?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I think he like, I know he knows that they exist and stuff. I don't know. Like, maybe if I had started my period and I was around, I think I would be comfortable being like, I need some tampons or something like that. Like, I didn't feel uncomfortable talking to him about it, but it makes sense that you want to talk to your mom about it because she's experienced it. It's harder sometimes to like, but I think if we can like, and I'm not saying men have to be experts on periods, but like they should just be more exposed to them because like, there's a tendency to try to shelter men and boys from periods. And like, we don't need to do that. So like, I was reading all these things. I was like, what are the kinds of like crazy things that men have done around or thought around periods? One crazy story was that a janitor in like in a school was in the girls' bathroom cleaning.
A male janitor?
And called the police. And the police came and were like very concerned. They were all male police. And what they had found was a used sanitary pad. And they were convinced it was a self-aborted fetus. They were like convinced of it.
My God.
They sent the pad in for like an analysis and stuff because they didn't know what it would look like. Because, again, newsflash, it's not always just like
a beautiful,
liquidy blood. There's your parts of your body are like coming out of your body a little bit. So like it can look, chunky. I don't know how else to say that.
Chunky Campbell soup.
But that the police would have been like, oh, this is a crime that we must like look into. It's like, no, it's just
period.
It's just a period. Another woman was talking about like there was some like Twitter thing, and she was saying like I guess it was a list of like worst mansplaining incidences, And one of her worst was that this guy was like mansplaining to her that she could not possibly be having her period because it wasn't the 28th of the month.
Oh,
and
thank you,
there's
man.
boys out there that just think that like we all have it on the same date. There was a huge deal on Reddit where this guy, he was like, we shouldn't like, sanitary pads and things like that should not be free because if a woman can't hold in her period to make it to the bathroom, then like she doesn't have any self-control. Thinking that it was like pee. He's like, I can hold my pee till I get to the bathroom, so you should be able to hold your period. And it was like, and so he got like eviscerated online.
Oh man!
And then apparently he said
trolls.
He had a girlfriend, and apparently people were like, that girl should like break up with him, and apparently she did. And then he was like, I was just kidding, and I don't think she took him back.
Wow. Well, the artist and poet Rupi Kaur.
Oh yeah.
She had posted. Remember that in like 2015, she had posted a picture of her free bleeding on Instagram, and it was taken down immediately.
That, yeah.
And then she put it back up, and it was taken down. And I think she finally got it to stay, but it was removed. Obviously, I mean, people were flagging it left and right. But her point was that, I mean, obviously, like we can idolize these young women and encourage pedophilia and rape culture and all this sort of stuff, but we can't just have this simple,
very natural normal thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really respect artists that are doing this. So there was another art installation called There Will Be Blood, and there were just photos of women all free bleeding.
Yeah.
But in normal situations like at a cafe or out on a bus but just, I mean, these images are so powerful.
Oh, I know, they're so great.
And I mean, it's the. And when I first looked at it, it's like, oh God, like it's really shocking because we are taught that this is gross.
Right.
We're taught that this is not normal. You don't see a woman free bleeding. I haven't, in my daily life. But I do think that that's important to capture these types of images because we are trying to normalize it, but also like what a grand statement it is of, I don't know. I think that any artist out there that we just need more of this, I think.
Yeah.
And we're currently writing a period song, trying to normalize it.
The other thing too about the free bleeding, it's like, well, maybe that is more of an option. Like maybe there's like, like a pillow you carry around, or maybe there is a way to make that work because like what I'm coming back to is that at the end of the day, that notion of like, what's the most comfortable for people? Is it, shoving things up in your pants like maybe is not the most comfortable option. Like maybe there's whatever. I mean, I don't know the logistics of that, but like I guess I don't want to totally say that that's not an option. We have to figure it out, know. But like if there's somebody out there, it's like, hey, I free bleed and this is how I do it. Like I'd be curious about how that worked. I don't see myself choosing that method mainly because I don't want to ruin all my pants.
Right.
But like,
I know. I get mad when I got my period panties and I stick to that.
Yeah. And I think that like the period panties are about as close to free bleeding.
I do think that it's so badass and feminist to like free bleed and do that. I think that there is something, I couldn't do it. Because I mean, these are Madewell jeans. I just got like, I'm not gonna do that. Right. But I mean, it's a very in your face movement.
Maybe part of it is that it's like, how we've all had our like accidents, right? Where like or tampon leaks or something, and then you get like a stain, like maybe through your pants, let's say, or on your skirt. Maybe part of what it isn't that like, then you don't like that you just don't change your tampon. It's that like, oh, you go, oops, I have to change my tampon. And then you walk around the rest of the day and you don't tie your jacket around your waist. And that people don't freak out if there's like a little bit of period blood on your pants because there was a little accident.
Like,
well,
like that model, like Madison Beer, to like get a little bit on her.
But like you at school.
Right.
That's my point. Is that like the what you had to do, because I was saying earlier, like, oh, you have an extra pair of pants. Well, but that's still hiding the thing. What if it's more just that like we accept that sometimes they leak and whatever, and then sometimes it's like, oh, damn, my pants are dirty, but I'm gonna be able to go about the rest of my day and not have like people freaking out. Yeah, and like we're just used to like knowing that, oh, that's that's too bad, her pants are ruined, but I don't have a problem with the fact that she has a period. You know what I mean? Whereas like now it's like people have a problem with the period.
Well, one thing that recently has changed my life with my period is my Flow app.
Oh yeah, I've been using one too. I like it.
Yeah, I'm really into the app. It sends me a text message when I should be expecting my period and like ovulating, and then I put in all my personal information of like when I had sex, and like it's just a really great way of knowing how my body works and stuff.
Oh yes, tell me.
Today, a story broke that some of these period apps are selling the data to fucking Facebook. So our data is given to Facebook. Right. So during your time of the month, or like, you know, during like right before it, you get advertisements for acne medicine, or right. You know, but they're getting so much. They can have my shoe size. They can have like, you know, where I like to eat or whatever. But knowing when I had sex, knowing like that private type of information, that really is
fucked up.
That is so fucked up.
Well, that's one thing that aside from the fucked up part of that, and the app is really useful, but there are ways to track it without an app. So you can learn
you can
how
put
to
it
do
on
that, and you can learn like what the app is nice about is it'll tell you like, hey, traditionally 3 days, it's your 3 days before your period, so your, you know, energies levels will be higher or lower, or you might be more cranky or whatever, and you learn your body that way. This woman was saying that like when you don't let people have conversations about their cycles and their periods, that then they never learn how to do any of that on their own. Like we could be teaching our girls how to do this without an app, you know? And this, there was this cool thing where someone was saying that like, we spend so much time worrying about like the PMS period or the period week and saying like, oh, you know, I'm going to miss work because I'm whatever. And she's like, but if you know your cycle and you know your flow, you can know in advance, like, okay, on the week of my period, I'm going to take it a little bit more easy at work. I'm going to be like a little bit more like low key and like, I'll get my work done, but I'm just going to, I know I'm going to need a little more space. But knowing that, in this part of my cycle, I have more energy. I have more, like, I'm more productive. So I'll put in a little extra work on those days so that then it's not this thing where women are falling behind because of like a period. It's like you can use that information in ways to balance out like your productivity. So if you're going for the big, what do you call it? Like the promotion at work. And then all of a sudden 1 week, like you've fallen behind a little bit in your work schedule because you're having trouble with your period. She's saying you can balance that out by like knowing like, okay, I'm going to have to work a little bit harder this week because it's like 2 weeks before my period. I mean, it's annoying, but like, I also think it's like empowering to know the way your body works so that you can make those adjustments and like stay competitive and stay, you know what I mean? So it's really unfortunate those apps take all your information.
Yeah, it's not all the apps. It was just a couple of Maya app maybe, or you'll have to look it up yourselves. But that to me makes me so angry.
Yeah, well, it's taking advantage of like. But I think that like the nice thing about those apps, and maybe we can try to learn how to do this ourselves, is just understanding that like during your cycle, your hormones. It's not just that one time of the month where things are like moving around. It's the whole cycle. There's a cycle happening. Learn about your cycle. Learn about what happens in your body.
And and if you're a man listening, know your partner's cycle.
Sure.
You know?
And be curious about it. Like, why not? It can be helpful and like, you know, thoughtful and, you know, I don't know. I know all about your jism.
Yeah, know all about your
too
jism.
much about jism.
Oh God. I tried to make my guy eat his jism the other day. He said no.
That's mean.
I know. But if I'm going to eat it, you too.
Yeah. Nope, fair enough.
Tell us your thoughts on that.
Everybody, all the men out there, try your jism. Put it in a soup. Why not?
Paul Foti has that cookbook, Natural Harvest. I swear to God.
It's all about jism?
He cooks with jism.
Protein.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yum, yum.
I don't really want to eat that, but okay.
Nope.
That's cool. Good for him.
Well, I hope that we have normalized periods for you.
A little bit,
taking away that stigma.
Conversations, yeah. And we encourage you to like learn more about your body and your partner's body and about like, you know, this thing that is the center of life on the universe on the planet.
I really want to have a guest on to talk about menopause.
Yes, that's an
to hear about
how also stigmatized. Nobody lets people talk about it.
No, nobody.
Yeah.
Especially women. We're like, it's so scared to talk about it because it's terrible. Yeah.
Well, terrifies us because we don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, this was fun.
Yeah,
I'm so glad we decided to free bleed throughout this entire episode.
Me too.
Now
it's just got all synced up and bled all over the living room.
Yeah, it's a crimson tide in here.
Aunt Flo has certainly come to stay. Cool.
Oh, well, this is great. Thank you all so much. Again, write us if you have any comments, compliments, I don't know, questions at difficultwomenpodcast@gmail.com.
Troll us. Those are fun to read online. So you can troll us.
So
too.
great. But also follow us on Patreon.
Oh, yes, please do. So we have a Patreon account under Reformed Whores. And if you don't know what Patreon is, it is a crowdfunding platform in which fans can support their favorite artists by subscribing to their Patreon. And you get fun stuff back. Like we've got patches and hats. And we also put together things like videos that are never before seen and play songs that have never been heard before. So you do get a lot of fun goodies along with that subscription.
So look us up on Patreon under Reformed Whores, and we'll make all your dreams come true.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
All right. Well, listen to our song that we wrote just for you.
Don't forget to change your tampon when it's that time of the month. Don't forget to change your tampon when it's that time of the month. Don't say, I forgot, honey, check the clock, cause you might just get toxic shock. Don't forget to change your tampon when it's that time of the month. Keep change. Don't forget to change your tampon when it's that time of the month. Oh, don't forget to change your tampon when it's that time of the month. You know it's true that you feel blue if you reach in and you find two. Don't forget to change your tampon when it's that time of the month.